So the Martial Artist is a D10 hit die. So they're a bit tougher than your other two that we've looked at so far. Proficiency is only in light armor, simple melee ranged weapons. So everything, pistols as well still, remember. But then melee, simple and traditional melee weapons. So for those again who've got the quick start, just a little cheeky shill available on DriveThruRPG for free right now. I might post it in the chat as well, and I'll put it in the description below. You'll have a whole table of kind of starting equipment that we've already developed for the game in beta. I wasn't in the chat room. That was a bit odd. Not seeing any messages come up. Someone type a message, and if it comes up, then I'm good. If not, I'm not sure what's going on. But yeah, you'll have a whole range of different weapons you can get from the quick start. Some of those are categorized as traditional weapons. So they're more like your swords and spears and stuff, but also some of the weapons that are used by your kind of martial artist practitioners. So that's what I've included there. Thanks, Phony. That's brilliant. I wasn't in the chat for some reason. That's a bit really weird. Anyway. Hopefully that comes up again. All right. And then saving throws, strength, and dex, I believe, as per the class as usual. And martial artist is based heavily off the monk as well. So again, we might take might speed through this a little bit because they're very similar. Skills to choose from, only 2 from acrobatics, athletics, infiltration, insight, and stealth. And then you get only a little bit of starting equipment at first level, and then as improved per the equipment upgrades at the same time you get your ability score upgrades. You get a traditional weapon, and then also a pack of your choice. And there are varying new kind of equipment packs that you can grab. I'm starting to get chat messages, that's good. Alright, so let's skim to unarmed defense at first level. While you're wearing no armor and not you're wearing a shield, your AC equals 10 plus dex plus wisdom. Martial arts, again, you get your d4 like weapon dice for unarmed attacks and for like improvised attacks. And then the die changes as you go up. That says monk levels, that shouldn't say martial arts levels. And then key, I've just changed to the kind of more accepted spelling, Western spelling, I guess, of key with a Q. Just change that throughout. And it's, again, the same kind of key points that you would usually spend. Flurry of blows, patient defense, as those starting kind of key kind of ability things. Unarmed movement increases your speed by 10. And by 9th level, you can move a quarter of your speed along vertical surfaces on your turn without falling during the move. But you can't end your move during that. So it's a little bit of the Matrixy running up walls kind of stuff. But it's a little bit more real, based in reality. A little bit. With a bit of movie magic behind it, I guess. Martial traditions that are going to be available are going to be Shaolin Kung Fu and Krav Maga. Yeah, so closer to parkour unarmed movement. That was the idea. Might even add a little bit into like falling damage, because parkour's all about falling the right way, rolling with the jump, that kind of thing. So might throw in a bit of that maybe. Bulletproof Monk was fun to rename, but basically remains the same. You can try and dodge range attacks and catch simple ranged missiles, not bullets, but simple ranged missiles like arrows that you come under fire from. When you do so, the damage you take from the attack is reduced by 1d10 plus your dex plus your martial artist level. If you reduce the damage to 0, you can catch the missile, so that the arrow or the bolt that you've had from the crossbow or whatever. And you can spend 1 key point if you want to throw it back, basically, just for the range of 20. So I think I adapted that a little bit. Ability score and equipment upgrades as usual, beginning from 4th level, and then this is a little newbie from me, Disarming Strike, because I did a fair bit of work on the grappling, restraining, and some of the disarming stuff, because there's going to be a fair bit of that where you're infiltrating somewhere where you're actually sneaking up behind a guard, and you want some of the advantage of being able to grab them with both hands, restrain them completely, take a weapon from them, that kind of stuff. But the martial artist just gets a kind of a pumped up version of that, where basically as an attack, they can make a strength or strength, athletics or acrobatics check, contested as usual for like grappling. If they succeed, then you can take one weapon that the enemy's holding. So it's not that you have to restrain them first, which is what we do in Spy Game, and then after that, as an action, you can then try and disarm them, and then you let go, obviously, whether you disarm them or not. It's actually as an attack, and that's an interesting specific rule, actually, because if it's an attack, then you can benefit from the extra attack that's coming up at 5th level. So you can do it twice. So if they're wielding 2 pistols, you could disarm 2 pistols in the same turn. You can spend a key point as well to make an attack with that weapon as a bonus action. So beginning at 5th level, you can attack twice instead of once. When you make the attack action. Stunning Strike, starting at 5th level, you can strike nerve points on an opponent's body. When you hit another creature with a melee weapon attack, you can spend a key point to attempt a Stunning Strike. The target must succeed on a con save or be stunned until the end of your next turn. Maybe their end of their next turn, but we'll iron out those details, I'm sure, in beta. Starting at 6th level, you get your key-powered strikes. They ignore resistance to bludgeoning damage. So if there's any armor out there that has some resistance to that, then that goes down a grade. And then evasion at 7th level, you're instinctively agile. It lets you dodge out the way of certain area effects, like grenade blast, explosions, that kind of thing. Jumping out the way in typical kind of movie fashion. When you're subjected to an area attack like that, you make a dex saving throw to only take half damage. If you do that, because a lot of saving throws ask you to do that, to take half damage, but if you succeed, instead you take no damage, and then only half damage if you actually fail. So that just gives you that boost there when you target of those kind of explosions. Stillness of Mind at 7th level, you can use your action to end one effect on yourself that's causing you to be frightened or stunned. So that's 2 of the conditions we have, and that lets you ignore one of those. Purity of Body at 10th level. Your mastery of the ki flowing through you makes you more resilient to disease and poison. You have advantage on any saving throws against poison, disease, or toxins. Scrupulous Insight is about those wisdom insight checks to determine if someone intends to harm you, very specifically. People who you read with a successful insight check cannot surprise you in combat until you have completed a long rest. So the idea is that even if they're talking to you, even if they don't look hostile and they suddenly turn hostile, you won't be surprised. Focused Awareness at the beginning of 14th level grants you proficiency on all saving throws. Additionally, whenever you make a saving throw and fail, you can spend 1 key point to re-roll it and take the second result. It's a handy re-roll. Tireless Body, 15th level, gives you a second use of the Second Wind action during combat. So Second Wind is kind of a new thing for the Spy Game that we found early in the alpha when I was testing it here at home. And basically, because there's no healing potions around, we needed something to help people just heal some hit points now and again during combat. So taking a little bit of idea from 4E with kind of adrenaline surge type stuff. So Second Wind lets you spend some hit die in combat in order to regain some health. So from 15th level you can get a second use of that, and you may spend ki in the place of hit dice, rolling your martial arts dice as opposed to your hit die to regain those hit points too. So it's really like a big buff, you know. Empty Body. At the beginning of 18th level, you can use your action to spend 12 key points to stabilize yourself while dying. And that's quite a lot for what you have at the time, but it could be a lifesaver. During that time, you also have resistance to all damage except force damage. And then Perfect Self at 20th level, when you roll for initiative and have no key points remaining, you regain 4 key points, just like the monk, I guess. And then the traditions that are coming up, like I said before, one of them being Shaolin Kung Fu, and one of them being Krav Maga. Looking into this, I did quite a bit of research on the kind of Shaolin practices. So there's a bit of detail there just on what that is and what their philosophy actually is in terms of these martial arts and their practice. It's a deep focus both of meditation, of internal and external force, that kind of stuff. Five Tigers in Interception style is a style that I had a look at. So then adapted it for kind of like a rules thing. Starting at 3rd level, when you choose this tradition, you may gain proficiency. You gain proficiency with a staff if you haven't already, and you can apply the martial arts class feature to it, regardless of its two-handed property. Because you need a light property for it usually for your martial arts weapon. This ignores that because their focus on spears back in the day, really. Whenever you hit a target, it should be a creature, but target with an attack using an unarmed strike or staff and spend a key point, you can impose one of the following effects on that human target. So you can't like push them 15 feet. You can't push a car 15 feet away from you, at this level at least. But you can succeed on a dex saving throw or be knocked prone. They have to do that. Or they can't take reactions until the end of your next turn. I say that about vehicles just because I think philosophy behind some of the vehicle write-ups for the like NPCs and enemies is that the crew will be kind of part and parcel of the stats. So it might be that you fight a tank or like an attack helicopter, and like that's our equivalent of a dragon, like an Apache. So if you're fighting an Apache, it's got all the stats. It doesn't necessarily have an intelligence or like a wisdom, but that's the pilot. That's what they're kind of providing for the stat block. So being able to push an Apache helicopter 15 feet doesn't sound quite right. So I chucked in like the human target thing there, just a caveat. The wholeness of body at 9th level, you can draw on your key reserves in the body to stay in the fight. As an action, you gain temporary hit points equal to 3 times your martial artist level. You must finish a long rest before you can gain use of this feature again. Key powered staff, you can spend key points when you attack with the staff. Each key spent adds martial arts die to the damage roll. If the damage is more than double the attack's normal maximum damage, the GM may declare the staff is broken. And then Drunken Boxing lets you channel your ki like that of water, so you're kind of shifting, quite evasive. You can spend a key point as a reaction. You can make a contested dex acrobatics check in response to an attack. And if you succeed, you take no damage. You can move a bit as well without provoking an attack of opportunity. And then Krav Maga is one of the more original ideas behind the archetypes that you can pick. Krav Maga is more of a kind of modern school of martial arts. It combines a lot of different older traditional styles, but also is a kind of ever-evolving, ever-adapting style. And this is reflected really in the archetype that we've put together. So at 3rd level, if you're grappled or restrained by an opponent, you can escape by making an attack action with an unarmed strike. If you cause damage to your opponent, you can spend a key to also escape their grasp, removing that condition if needs be. Counter strike at 9th level, when an opponent fails an attack roll targeting you with a melee weapon, you may spend 1 key to make an unarmed strike attack as a reaction with a +2 bonus to the damage roll. So Krav Maga is a lot about those kind of swift movements, about defense and attack in the same motion, and that's really what Counter Strike was for me when I put that in there. Weak points. Krav Maga doesn't take any prisoners when it's your own like defense at stake. So from 11th level, you can target a person's weak points. You can blind them, or you can like incapacitate them as well one of those following effects until the end of their next turn. And then Deadly Palm Strike is, I believe, actually from Monk, and that is 17th level. You gain the ability to make a lethal unarmed strike. You can spend 4 key points, and they must make a DC 10 con saving throw. If they fail, they're reduced to 0 hit points. If they succeed, they take 10d10 bludgeoning damage. That's pretty hefty. Yeah, so that was pretty much Monk, but with some cool additions, I think.